This is MAAP Real Talk Show again with you, George Nemeh, the host. We're trying to do the best we can. We're downtown at the Arizona Capitol in the state of Arizona, Phoenix. You could Google it. We are trying our best to cover all the events, and this is a breaking news as well, but there's a little details here to give you a little, I want to call it a lecture because that's what we need to say sometimes. And here's Stacy with us. If you could give me the whole full name is fine. And he has something to say to you.
So my name is Stacy Gentile. I served as Daniel McCarthy's chief strategist on his U.S. Senate campaign. The evening of August 4th, I had that sick feeling in my stomach. The exact same sick feeling I had in my stomach when I saw that second plane hit the World Trade Center tower, because I knew we were under attack. When we got the results in on the evening of August 4th for a U.S. Senate race, I knew the election was rigged. There was no way Martha McSally beat us, and everybody on our team knew it. So then it was up to us to figure out exactly how that happened. So we started digging into the mechanics. And when we got into the mechanics, I came across this thing that's called fraction magic, or fractional voting. In the country of the United States, we're supposed to have one vote for one person. We are not supposed to have one person 0.7 of a vote, or one person 1.3 of a vote. That is not a free and fair election. That is treason. That has us where we're at today. When we sat on Monday morning, when we sat in a team with Rudy Giuliani and the White House legal team, and we looked at the fire hose of information that was coming from him and his team about voter fraud. And believe me, there was a lot of it. There's dead people voting, there's people's dogs voting, there's people voting out of state, there's people getting 18 ballots at home and they're sending them all back in. There is enough evidence to clearly prove that there was voter fraud in the 2020 presidential election. Then you have something even more sinister, election fraud. Through the Dominion system and through the Diebold system and the GEM system and everything else that they're using, these systems are not secure. Just on the point of taking a look at the machines themselves, they neither have physical security or access security. In other words, there is not somebody watching these machines 24 hours a day, and there is definitely access via 2 ports into these machines, whether it's a USB hub or a remote access. Therefore, the voting machines are not secure, and they have not been secure since they've been in existence. And this is how they get in and they switch them. Again, coming back to fraction magic. What fraction magic does is you take a vote, you put it in the machine, and you look like your vote counts. And by the way, once it goes in the machine, it's a phantom. They could take a semi-load of these, load it in, or you can't even track your own vote. You don't get a receipt for it. So what happens is after these votes go into the machine, the computer magic starts happening. And they can flip these races however they want to. And trust me, they have been doing this, I believe, since 1999. And let me tell you this, and let me be very clear. It is not Democrats doing it to Republicans. It is also Republicans doing it to Republicans. Yep. It is what happened to us in our primary. And as a matter of fact, this is how they control the entire landscape of the politics in this country. They control you in the primary, they pick their winners and losers, and then they broker away the seats. We believe 100% this is what's happening. And when we looked at all the information that, again, came to us through a fire hose, through Rudy Giuliani and his team, you cannot deny, any reasonable person cannot deny fraud. And looking at the data that was presented by MIT experts, data people who crunch numbers for a living, it is 100% clear there was also election fraud. It's bad, folks. This is bad. We no longer have a free, fair, and open democracy in this country. So, where does this leave us? We have to stop Biden from getting 270 electoral votes. The state of Arizona, through Hobbs and Ducey, have already signed away your 11 electoral votes. That does not leave us with options, but this is our single last peaceful political option that we have. We have to convince all the state legislators to sign a letter of intent that I will read here shortly and send this document to Vice President Mike Pence. So he will have 2 competing documents. He will have one document from Doug Ducey and Katie Hobbs that declares there are 11 electoral votes for Biden. He will get another slate from the state legislators that declares either the votes for President Trump because of fraud or ask that all of the votes be nullified. That is where we're at today. Let me read you this letter because there's some important things in here, and it will cover a constitutional precedence that has already been set. Letter of intent to decertify the Arizona 2020 election, put forth by the following members of the Arizona State Legislation. This is a letter of intent presented by the following members of the Arizona State Legislation to either have the 2020 election decertified or have the 11 state electoral votes be awarded to President Trump. We have collectively come to this resolution after new information was presented to us by Mr. Rudy Giuliani and his legal team on Monday, November the 30th of 2020. After considerable review, we cannot, in good faith, support the certification put forth by Governor Ducey and the Secretary of State, Katie Hobbs. Neither Governor Ducey or the Secretary of State were in attendance at the presentation of this meeting with Mr. Giuliani, and they prematurely certified this election. The evidence presented in that hearing by Giuliani and his team included both sworn statements and clear-cut evidence that Secretary Hobbs and Doug Ducey neither certified knowing fraud existed and those to be willful, or let me rephrase that, I'm sorry. It is fair to assume that Governor Ducey and Secretary Hobbs either certified the election knowing fraud existed or they chose to willfully be ignorant of the facts. Let me restate that. They certified the election knowing there was fraud, or they willfully ignored the facts. That is clear. That is undisputable. Go back and watch the tape of Rudy Giuliani. I will continue. It is our duty as the rightful elected representatives of our great state to request the election be decertified based upon these facts. We are also asking that the 11 electoral votes be awarded to Donald J. Trump or have them nullified completely until a forensic audit can be concluded. We are collectively making this request using our constitutional authority under Article 2, Section 1 of the U.S. Constitution, which states that the authority to determine a state's electoral slate is solely with the state legislative body, not the Secretary of State. The Secretary of State's function is merely to execute the act of certification. That is all. The state legislators send the slate. But because they signed he died, we know this whole situation, and that's a topic for a different day. But the Arizona State Legislature is empowered to challenge the certification and submit an electoral slate of their own. Again, the idea is to give them two slates. In the event that this election is not decertified, we will therefore be forced to send the second slate of electors for consideration. The historical precedence for this is the 1876 Tilden versus Hayes presidential election, where 4 slates of disputed election results were sent 2 separate electoral slates to the U.S. Senate. Exactly like this case, one by the governor and one by the state legislature. There is nothing more sacred in the United States of America than our democracy, than having free and fair elections. Amen. Given the facts presented, this is the only course of action to ensure confidence not only in this election, but all future elections. We are the rightful elected officials who represent the people of this great state of Arizona. Be it known, this is our official request. Yes. And we are asking all the state legislators to immediately come down to the Capitol, sign this document, and put together the slate. The slate has to be in Vice President's hands by December 8th.
Let's do that.
Does everyone agree with Mr. Stacy? Can I see you by raising your hands?
Yes, I agree.
So what do we need to do?
And then the next thing that we need to do after that happens is we need to clean up this election system, and
Yes.
people need to be hauled out in handcuffs. A full
Yes.
forensic audit.
Yes.
needs to be done.
Thank you.